Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our host, Mrs. Josephine Teo, Senior Minister of State for Finance and Transport. Mrs. Teo is accompanied by our guest speaker, Mr. Jack D. Chatterview, Chairman of Bourbon and Chairman and CEO of Jetcar Holdings. Mrs. Josephine Teo, Senior Minister of State for Finance and Transport. Mr. Jack D. Chatterview, Chairman of Bourbon and Chairman and CEO of Jetcar Holdings. Mr. Pankin Keong, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transport. Mr. Lucien Wong, Chairman, Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the 8th Singapore Maritime Lecture. My name is Joshua and I will be your MC for this afternoon. As you may be aware, the Singapore Maritime Lecture is an anchor event of the Singapore Maritime Week. Launched in 2007, the Singapore Maritime Lecture is an esteemed lecture series that features prominent personalities sharing their knowledge and insights on key maritime issues, and this year sees the 8th installment of the series. Without further ado, may we invite the lecture's moderator, Mr. Jia Jusset, General Manager, DVB Group Merchant Bank Asia Limited, and Managing Director and Global Head Offshore Finance DVB Bank SE to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Jusset, please.
I feel very humbled and privileged to have this chance. I had the pleasure of following Jacques de Chateauvieux and his companies for the last 10 years and have seen the success and growth of his ventures leading to where we are today, a very important point in time, as I will come back to. Mrs. Josephine Teo, Senior Minister of State for Finance and Transport, Mr. Jacques de Chateauvieux, ambassadors, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to everyone. It gives me great pleasure to host and to be the moderator for the 8th Singapore Maritime Lecture. The lecture was first launched in 2007, and today is a key pillar of the Singapore Maritime Week and has grown into a leading forum that features prominent personalities, which my predecessor commented on, sharing their perspectives on issues of interest to the global maritime community. Today, we are very honored to have Mr. Jacques de Chateauvieux, Chairman of Bourbon and Chairman and CEO of Jetcar Holdings, a very eminent figure in the international maritime and offshore community, to deliver the 8th Singapore Maritime Lecture. The Jetcar Group, of which Bourbon, the Paris-listed offshore company, is part of, is a diversified group with global interests ranging from marine and offshore activities, such as shipbuilding and fishery, to real estate in developing markets. The Jetcar Group's origins begin in 1980, with Mr. Chateauvieux establishing Jetcar Holdings to acquire shares in Bourbon. Founded in Reunion Island in 1948, Bourbon started out as a family-owned sugar company. Following Jetcar Holdings' investments into Bourbon, Bourbon developed into a conglomerate with activities in sugar, food, retail, and marine services. In 2001, i.e. 13 years ago, a greater potential for growth was identified in the marine and offshore services. Today, Bourbon is a major, if not the leading international player in marine services, offering a full range of offshore marine services with integrated support for offshore exploration, development, and production in both deep and shallow waters. The Bourbon Group, with a market cap of, and I'm smiling, and you don't know the reason why, but we had a fierce exchange over lunch today, and applying the most recent exchange rates and checking Tidewater, who was the largest company until 3 weeks ago, has now been surpassed by Bourbon with a market cap of $2.38 billion US dollars. I take my hat off for that. The company today owns a fleet of, or operates a fleet of 484 vessels around the world in more than 45 countries with over 10,000 employees, and still, ladies and gentlemen, with 52 more new builds to be delivered. As some of you may be aware, Bourbon and the ICBC, or the Industrial Commercial Bank of China Financial Leasing, did a mega, I would use the word mega transaction in the offshore market last year of $1.5 billion US dollars in a sale and leaseback of 51 vessels. Last year, leading into this year with follow-on similar transactions. This was a significant step forward in Bourbon's long-term business development blueprint, named Transforming for Beyond and Asset Smart, which has included a total of $2 billion in new build for offshore vessels. The Jakar Group has also ventured into the gas and dry bulk segments with the establishment of Greenship Holdings Trust in Singapore in 2012. Greenship Holdings hold two separate entities, Greenship Gas and Greenship Bulk, for activities in the gas and dry bulk sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind the growth of Bourbon Jakar Group is Mr. Jacques de Chateauvieux. He graduated from Institut Supérieur de Gestion de Paris in 1972 and earned an MBA from Columbia University in New York in 1974. Under his leadership as CEO and later chairman, Bourbon has transferred from a sugar production company into a conglomerate listed on the Paris Stock Exchange. I would say that over the last decade or so, he has successfully repositioned Bourbon into a key, if not the lead, marine service provider to the offshore industry. And bear with me what I'm saying, in a period represented by the most dramatic events in international financial markets, including also a spectacular fall in the oil price from $150 per barrel to $35. And we know what that means for the oil majors. Later, balancing around the $100 mark per barrel. A volatile shipping market, or a volatile offshore market, has certainly not stopped Mr. Chateauvieux from committing himself to the industry. As many of you will know, on March 16, i.e. 3 weeks ago, Jakar launched a takeover offer to Bourbon's shareholders at a premium of 24% of yesterday's trading close at the Paris Bourse. We look forward to the company's general shareholders meeting on 20th of May to see whether or not he will be successful in continuing to build value in shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would very much like to hand over this time to Jacques, our distinguished speaker, for him to share his insights on the industry under the title, Can We Create Value in Shipping? Why or why not? Jacques, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to have this opportunity to address this subject that, speaking of after a banker, is a little bit difficult. How do we make money in this industry? And I will try to share with you a few of the thoughts that I gathered from my own experience. When you speak about making money, you have to first look at the drivers and make sure that the way you segment the market is appropriate. Therefore, I found out that to create value, you have to look into two dimensions. The first one is any value coming from size, And it can be low or high, or any value coming from differentiation, but not the kind of differentiation that you are proud of, but the kind of differentiation that the customer pay for and that you can sustain and protect in the long run. And that differentiation factor can be low or can be high. And you see that by doing that, you are creating 4 segments into the business. The segment of low value to size and low differentiation, obviously there is no difference on the return of capital employed if you take this as the measure of what's going on in terms of value creation. Now, if you have high value to size, obviously, if you grow faster than the other guys, and if you have a larger market share, then you will make more money in that given market than the one that is smaller and has higher cost. Now, if you go to the next one, where there is value to size, but there are ways to differentiate, then obviously you can have different level of profit depending on the niche market where you differentiate yourself. And then there is another market where you have low value to size and many different ways to differentiate. And obviously, there is no explanation why some of the companies have high return and some of the companies have low return. So if you look at it from the maritime perspective, then you see that starting again with the low, the value creation will come mainly from the management of the cycle and watching your cost. If you go to a high value to size and a low differentiation, then the value creation will come from market concentration, growing faster than the other guys and keeping your leadership position. Well, if you have a high value to size and high value to differentiation, then it will be how you position yourself into defendable, sustainable, barrier to entry niches. And if you have a high differentiation but low value to size, then it's really about how you differentiate within the cycle management. Now, we have to position the business of shipping into those 4 different segments. And for the sake of the presentation, I will use A, B, C, and D, as you can see on your chart. And those that are in red are the examples that I will go through to try to identify how do you make money in those different segments. And we can start with the bulk carrier. Now, you know that in shipping, we have 2 ways to make money. One way is to operate the vessel, and the other way is to trade the vessel, to buy and sell the asset. So you make money through operation on one side, and you make money through management of the asset on the other side. In this segment with low differentiation and low value to size, obviously you have to minimize your operational cost, and you have to contract your vessel in a proper way according to the cycle. But from the asset side, first thing you have to do is believe in cycle. If you believe in cycle, if you don't believe in cycle, just walk away. The remaining of the presentation is not for you. The other thing is you need people with experience. You don't need people sitting in Wall Street. You need a 60-year-old, 3rd-generation Greek owner that knows what he is talking about. And then you have to have enough cash at any time. This is a business where you need to have a permanent reserve of cash so that you are never obliged to. Never obliged to buy, never obliged to sell. And then obviously, if you can buy the asset at the low price, you will not only make money through the operation of the vessel, but you also make money through the trading of the vessel when the cycle is right. What is the first mistake that you should avoid? Because this is a low differentiation segment, you should not think that your bright idea of innovation is going to protect you from being a commodity product. And therefore, never think that innovation in this segment is giving you a real edge on the competition. If you take this Tiger 5000 that we built a few years ago, which is probably the best LPG, fully pressurized, 5,000 cubic meter vessel, we got a 2-year edge. If you take the Crown 63, which is probably the most popular Supramax at sea, built in China, is one of our yard, we got a 15% fuel reduction, we got a 15% more capacity, but it only lasts for 2 years. And if you look at the competitor design in the handysize sector, is the same. Well, it's not always really the same, and we will speak again about that, when we dare to use diesel-electric propulsion to build a long series, more than 100 vessels of the same type in China for offshore. People thought, and I think maybe they were right, that we were mad. And then it took 8 years before the first vessel that looks like, that is the same, then our vessel is going to hit the sea. First thing is, be careful about your thinking that low differentiation is for the others, but you have found the real differentiating factor in that segment. This do not exist. Well, this is a cyclical business. What drives the business is the cargo. And the cargo to be transported compared to the available capacity give you the utilization rate, this is the first graph, the utilization rate of your fleet. And then the utilization rate is even further enlarged in terms of impact by the fact that